everyone, welcome back aboard Felicity, November 8033 Foxtrot, a Cessna basic aviation training device that I built at home. I'm gonna do something a little different and just gonna kind of give you guys a quick, maybe it won't be quick, video tour of Felicity and what all is involved in getting her going. I don't even know where to begin. I guess I'll just start with the panel. The glare shield is made out of 1-inch high density foam that I found at a local craft store, Joanne Fabrics. I don't know if they're syndicated across the nation or the world or whatnot. So it's 1-inch foam, and this is wrapped with a cheap synthetic vinyl almost. And I bought a spray adhesive to kind of adhere the vinyl to the foam. So it's nothing special. I think I've got 10 bucks in this glare shield. So yeah. The gauge panel is kind of my pride and joy, custom built by me. The gauge bezels, well, I can't say it's all built by me. I had a friend of mine 3D print the gauge bezels, but I got the bezels back in raw form. The panel itself is made out of 1/4-inch birch. I decided on birch because it doesn't splinter as easily as a lot of other woods do. I didn't want a messy drilling. Every hole you see here was drilled out with a hole saw on a drill press. The annunciator panel, I did that one by hand. So once I got my panel cut out and got all my holes in, I fixed the bezels into the panel there with some small sheet metal screws. It was very tedious. She's fully functional. These are all rotary encoders and knobs that are behind here. Very small wire, 24 gauge wire. So I figure each encoder has 3 wires. You have a ground, and then you have a, one signal or the other. So, there's probably every bit of 40 wires behind this panel itself. I don't know if the clock works. The goal here is to get this thing fully FAA certified at some point, and maybe high hopes, but based on the standards and qualifications, I'm nearly there. I'll have to finalize some things before I submit a QAG, and the caveat is once I submit that QAG as like a quality assurance guarantee, something like that, I cannot change anything. So I need to make sure that she's exactly the way I want it before I attempt to even consider doing that. Okay, so back to the panel here. The wires are more or less just kind of taped along the back of the panel. The panel itself I dremeled on the back side, so the wires kind of recess into the birch wood. There's nothing sticking out further than this 1/4-inch thickness of this bolt-on or screw-on panel here. The panel is overlaid over a 22-inch HP monitor, and I cut out for my yoke here. So the monitor is directly behind the panel, and the monitor is sitting directly on top of the the yoke housing there. There's not a whole lot of room. So that's the panel. The placard set is a FAA approved Cessna 172 placard set. They're available for purchase online. We'll go down here further. We have the pilot yoke and the co-pilot yoke. Both of them are fully functional. We'll go down here to our switch panel and our circuit breakers. The circuit breaker panel I did build myself. It's nothing fancy. They're just go nowhere, do nothing, push buttons that I bought on Amazon. They're not wired to anything. They're simply just a tactile button that I can push. That way when I'm going down through my checklist, circuit breakers in, yeah, there they are, I'm pushing them all in. If it's on the checklist, I wanted it on here. So, moving right along. Down here we have our throttle quadrant. And this is a recent addition. Don't know if you can necessarily see that. This is our carb heat. I'm flying a 172 mic model currently. That's what I have loaded in here. It's a carbureted motor. Well, technically it's an engine. So this is a recent addition. Now these switches that are all on this panel, they're all what's called a single throw double pole switch. So it's not on off on off. It's on. It's sending two separate signals, and it's doing that through 4 wires on each switch, and they run to a mini board that was made by Bobby at Desktop Aviator. Really great guy. So the Desktop Aviator board, right now it's currently only hosting 2 switches. My carb heat, and then this is another recent addition is this alternate static over here. Again, that's on the checklist. It's also in the POH too. I say checklist, but I compare checklist to the POH, and we'll get to the POH here in just a second. Move right along to our audio panel and GPS units. These are all made by Real Sim Gear. I've tested out, I've had my hands on a couple different GPS units over the years. Comparatively, Real Sim Gear is a newer company. My first GPS unit, again, was made by Desktop Aviator, but this was 10 years ago, and it really served the purpose then. Do I think that these units are worth the price? To an extent. One of the caveats of the 530 that I noticed is that for some reason, when you install it, you have to invert the display in Windows. So what that's telling me is that the physical display inside of this unit is actually physically upside down. And it makes sense because I can see the very difference in contrast between the 530 and the 430. And if I kind of go down below, okay, you can see that angle changes. Now that contrast changes. So this is not what's considered an IPS monitor or any degree monitor. So we got the 530 and the 430 there from Real Sim Gear. Down below that is the transponder panel. We'll just going to be a fire real quick. My transponder panel and my autopilot are made by Prop Wash Simulation. Decent units for the price. I've got no complaints. Both of them run on a plug-in through X-Plane. And then for some right seat situational awareness, I've got a Garmin G5 in here. And I do fly occasionally from the right seat. So it's in there. It's just a small LED strip I've got running along the top. Just a cheap eBay. They're a dime a dozen nowadays. But it comes with a remote control, and you can change the colors and things like that. So yeah, we'll move down to the center panel. Obviously we've got our throttle prop and mixture here. Our center panel houses our trim wheel, as well as a voltmeter and some 12-volt charging to run, keep my tablet charged before flight, or it's got a 12-volt receptacle there for whatever you might need. Our trim wheel is made by a company called Syntec. They're based out in the United Kingdom. Small business type guy, really great guy to work with. I do enjoy it. The intercom, FSX Dual. This came out of Australia or Netherlands. I forget where or New Zealand. I forget where they're based out of. It's New Zealand, okay, because it was New Zealand Post I received it. FSX Dual is our intercom. It takes a typical GA headset. Just like any intercom, I could talk pilot to co-pilot without actually transmitting. And down below that, we have our fuel select and our emergency fuel cutoff. And again, made by Desktop Aviator. And part of the placard set there. 2 sets of SciTech Pro Flight rudder pedals. They're not the Cessna version, just the standard, typical version there. Pilot and co-pilot. The cabin on an X-plane currently is only 1 set of controls can be operated at any given time. So I've got kind of a left seat, right seat type scenario. So when I flip that switch, the right side yoke will take over, down on the right, down on the left. So if I'm flying with somebody or trying to teach somebody how to use her, I can pass the controls over in it, but at any given time, I can take them back or vice versa. So we covered controls, the primary flight controls, rudder pedals. Wet compass, built myself, some servo motors. The wet compass is powered by a software called Mobile Flight on an Arduino board. It's an Arduino Mega board. And my gauges are powered by Air Manager, also on an Arduino board. Moving along, we have our flap switch. This is probably one of the oldest components in here, made by Desktop Aviator. And then right next to that, I have my cabin air switch. You might be thinking, why is this silly guy putting a cabin air switch in here? It's not a real airplane, it's not going to get any fresh air. So we'll just go right up here to where we have our air vents and our visors. Both are reclaimed out of a Cessna 172. And again, over here is one of our air vents. This one's got the outside air temperature gauge on it. And again, we have our sun visors because, sun. Let's see, anything else in the interior? The right side, main view, left side. Okay, some Cessna pull straps to help assist in closing the doors. Just like a real Cessna, you kind of have to pick up and pull on them. The views, I get a lot of questions about the views. How do I get my views so properly aligned? Well, the long and short answer is I don't. At least not on my own, okay? This magic is accomplished by a quite pricey, albeit rather well done program called Immersive LCD Pro. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of details about that right now, but I will kind of show you what it does. This is my standard X-plane view. If I were to go simply based off the numbers that I set up in the X-plane view windows, okay, this is what I would get. The horizons are uneven, I see the cowl, I see my gauge panel. When I warp everything, it becomes true to life. And let me show you how that works real quick. Immersive LCD Pro. This is the main program. This is kind of a setup of how my displays are currently based on what it sees in the NVIDIA control panel. Okay. LCD Designer is a mini program within Immersive LCD Pro. When I open, okay, this is where the magic happens. This is where you tell Immersive LCD Pro how big your monitors are, what their resolution is. You're inputting the viewing distance from your eye to each display. It wants to know every detail, position, XYZ, rotation, where it is in relation to your eyesight. It wants to know the monitor's resolution, the physical height, the bezel dimensions, and it takes all of that into account, okay? And what it does, okay, here's your 360-degree sphere. This is your eyesight. This is your human eye. This is what you can see. It's three-dimensional, okay? You're seeing, you're not seeing a flat panel. So what the program does is it takes the information, okay, and it establishes a view setting for X-plane, okay? And then when you enable the warping, it basically warps your displays into a circle. I don't know how else to describe it. It becomes a circle. So once you export your views into X-plane, you get something really funny looking until you enable the warping, which I just have a hotkey set up for F4. Boom. There we are. Now everything is geometrically correct. There is no fisheye, no distortion. What used to happen before I invested in this software program is, say I was taxiing over to the main hangar over here, and we're sitting on the ramp here at 4 I-9 or at Morrow County, my home airport. So if I was taxiing down towards runway 28 down there, as I would get closer to the hangar, it would kind of distort and fisheye and kind of just look weird looking, and then it would kind of hop over through the what I would call the A-pillar of the plane, but the bezel here just kind of hop over and then boom, and be small again. It just wasn't, it worked, it served the purpose, but when I saw what this program does and I did the demo, it sold me. Considering what I've had invested in it already, the couple $100 was a small price to pay to immerse myself even more in the experience. Okay, so seats. A bit more comfortable than the typical Cessna 172 seats you might be used to. These are actually seats out of a Mazda 6 that I reclaimed. Keep an iPad in here to run things like ForeFlight, and my knee pad over here, and then some various checklists I keep in here as well. These seats are equipped with seat belts, and they do slide forward and back, so there is a seat track. Remember what I said about that checklist, okay? If it's on this checklist here, oh, look at that. November 8033 Foxtrot. How about that? If it's on this checklist, I want to be able to do it. I want to put my hands on it, okay? Papers, aero. Oh yeah, that's one thing we'll talk about real quick. Aero. We all know what we need to fly. Airworthiness certificate. Would you look at that? A standard airworthiness certificate for November 8033 Foxtrot. Our registration. Would you look at that? Actually, look. There's our registration. O, operating manual, and our weight and balance is in the back of this book as well. So, well, you're good to go there. Plug my phone in here. Alright. So we covered seats, seat belts, checklist. We covered aero. I think we're ready to step on out. Alright, so we'll step out here real quick. And I'll kind of show the exterior walk around here. The center console, I forgot about that. Center console is built by a buddy of mine. A rear world commercial pilot. Alright, so our doors do open, they're fully functional. So we're just gonna kind of step out here. Okay. This is pilot's door. The exterior walls are a Plastex panel. Behind the seats, this was a great suggestion from my girlfriend. I had nothing behind here for. She recommended I hang this black curtain. Previously, when I was sitting in there and then I turned to look, you know, I would be detracted by, you know, just the outside view in my office here. So this black curtain really kind of helped keep from that detraction and enhance the immersion. And again, we have another door over here for the co-pilot. Okay. Black curtain along the footwell as well, just to kind of enclose it without fully enclosing it, so to speak. You know, that way somebody slides a seat too far back, you know, that it kind of gives room there. Her left and right windows, so to speak, are 32-inch Acer IPS monitors. Her primary front display is a 75-inch 4K flat screen TV. Now, here's the top of my cabin. Here's the top of the TV. Why so much wasted real estate, you say? It's really not. I know that I cannot see anything that's going to be below my panel. Okay? I'm just not going to see anything below my panel. However, when I get in, I can see physically above my aircraft. Okay, remember this is the ceiling of my aircraft, and I'm within that 360-degree circle. So if there's traffic 500 feet above, Cessna 33 Foxtrot, report traffic in sight. You know, I can go down, kind of look up. Okay, yes, have traffic in sight. You know, if I didn't have that extra real estate, okay, on top here, I may not have that traffic. And the same with left and right. You know, my 8 inches here between the edge of my, you know, physical cockpit and the display, in reality, is probably every bit of 45-degree peripheral field of vision from within the cockpit. Now, remember that funny little cabin air switch? It's plumbed to a 5-volt USB fan. So, when I pull that cabin air switch, boom. Because I tell you what, sometimes it does get hot in here, especially on a long cross country. And it, as you might guess, blows the air right out there. Underneath each seat is a pair of butt kickers, which you're probably not going to be able to see currently. There's a butt kicker under each seat, so I can essentially feel the engine. But I don't. Again, this is part of a lot of what I have invested here. Okay, it's not, I don't feel everything like a lot of people with the butt kickers would. This sensor shaker sound module, it basically goes through and analyzes the airplane, what you should feel versus what you should hear. Okay, I shouldn't feel, you know, the click of a button, you know, or something like that. So that kind of separates that sort of audio, and it's really kind of enhanced, you know, the buffeting on a you know, when you're close to a stall or things of that sort. So yeah, just some little bit of lighting. Not that I ever use it. It's pretty bright in here as it is. Here's the GoPro that I use to do my in-flight recordings. And this kind of gives you that detraction I was talking about. Now, if this black curtain wasn't here, you know, you'd see my office and down the hallway. So, there's that. Am I missing anything? I guess we'll kind of, let's see over here. This is my observation station. So when I'm, like, say, you know, I'm going for a check ride for like my instrument rating, or when I did my check ride for my private pilot license on the VATSIM network, the instructor needed to see, you know, I needed to share my screen with the instructor so they could see, you know, what I was doing. Well, none of my views that I have set up would allow that to happen, so they could see everything. So this is actually a fourth display that I use on occasion. Not very often, because it does tax the system when I add another whole other 3D cockpit display to the system. So that's why that's there. This is rig number 1. This is the my X-Plane rig. This is what hosts X-Plane, as well as the pilot client, X-Pilot. And that's really all that runs on this machine. Is X-Plane on my pilot client. I want as minimal resources being utilized on this machine as possible. I want a smooth flight model. Everything else is run on a different machine. This is an i7 overclocked to like 4.3, something like that, with a 1080 super clocked edition that I overclocked as well. I do get a steady 30 frames per second. I have it limited to a 30 frames per second. I don't need any more than that. I'd rather it, you know, calculates 30 frames and then move on. So yeah, I have the frame limited within NVIDIA's control panel, and it really has smoothed up performance. You know, when I'm trying to grab 40 or 50 frames per second on one 4K display and two 1080 displays on an old GTX 1080, it just doesn't work out in, you know, my favor. So when I limit it, it processes everything a lot better. Over here is the slave machine. This machine runs everything else: my weather engine, my gauges, my compass, my trim wheel. And it's an i5. It doesn't have to be very powerful to do all of that. We got the butt kicker amplifier here, and this is the 12-volt power supply, which runs through a simulated voltmeter and provides the 12-volt power source. And over here is everything else going. So we got Air Manager, which handles the Arduino board for the gauges. We've got our weather engine, Active Sky XP. Down below that, I've got my trim wheel software and my mobile flight software, which connects via XP Wide Client. So yeah, that's Felicity. So there's not a whole lot to look at from the outside. The frame itself, the plans are a dime a dozen on the internet. I did modify it to suit what I wanted to do, but the actual, you know, a frame like this, they're out there. I'm not going to go into dimensions or anything like that. I will tell you that I did design mine to be the exact width of a Cessna 182. Because I knew that, you know, I wanted to be as accurate as possible with placement of things as possible. So there we are. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little tour. My name's Michael. I am her sole owner. There is no partnership in this. I am also her primary pilot and her A&P. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I'll try my best to answer them. Yeah, I'll catch you guys in the air.